It's almost time. Verizon Small Business Days are coming from October 14th to the 20th. Meet with our experts. Get one-on-one advice, a free tech check, and special offers. Don't miss out. Give your business the VIP treatment it deserves. Call 1-800-483-4428 or go to verizon.com/smallbusiness. Get started today.
Welcome all to another episode of My Life, My Music. With the Governor Alan Hudson, we take a trip down memory lane. And we're going to be calling this one Another Day. I've got a little bit of the winter blues, and you had the winter blues at Chelsea in 1973. We have covered that iconic year in Yesterday Once More. We have covered Hudson 74 in You Make Me Feel Brand New. All the merchandise you can get on srbmedia.co.uk/shop. But before we really get into 1974 Christmas and everything when you went to Stoke in the January, let's look at another day, the 15th of December 1999, that changed your life. And a happy 25th.
You mean 15th of December 97?
Oh, was it 97?
Yeah.
Yes, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I was saying to my son Alan on that day, a couple of days ago, of course, Martin's birthday yesterday was the day after. And strangely enough, it brought back so many memories, all good memories.
Yeah.
You know, I explained to somebody last night. They asked me about regrets and what would you do differently and all that, and I said one thing I wouldn't change is that year in hospital. It was my greatest challenge and my greatest success, and a wonderful experience really. Although I nearly died, it was if you come out on the other side, it's an extraordinary story. It's really good, you know, and. I was telling him about the night before it happened. I was at, as strange as it should be, at Martin's surprise party last night, because the night before it happened, I was at his work's Christmas party, and pretty much feeling the same as I do this morning, but worse for wear. But I was 25 years younger then, and could handle it a lot better. And I called a minicab about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the cab driver come up, and it was Peter Story.
Oh, right, blimey.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I
bet you couldn't.
You know, you couldn't. That's getting run over. If that was a trillion at one shot, this was a trillion at one shot. So it was so great to see him as well. He was my first roommate at Arsenal. So we had to put aside all the times he had marked me, and which he did so brilliantly at Arsenal. Great fella, and just another reminder of how life is so eerie at times, weird. You know, that something like that could happen. Then, you know, I had a wonderful day. I was working for Sporting Life at the time. I had a great day out with them. I had a great day. Followed that by a party with another great friend, Mel Tame, on the way home, and then. Finished off, I got run over, and in between that Peter Story. So there was many twists and turns, not just in my life, but around that period of time, Paul. You know.
And it was Mr. Goodyear, wasn't it, the excellent surgeon that really pulled you through with good management, as Tony Waddington pulled you through in 1974, again, with good management, and good management is what anybody needs, and it's something that we always highlight on My Life, My Music, isn't it?
Well, it is. You know, we went back to that last night as well, and I did with my friend Jeff Idle the other day, who was at Chelsea with me. I stayed with him the other day, and we were talking about good management, and that's the key to everybody that makes you or breaks you.
Yeah.
But it was actually, as David Goodyear put it in his medical report, it was stronger management.
Yeah.
And stronger management, you know, words really don't really mean too much when you're talking about on this subject, but stronger management is so much more important than good management. Stronger management is a manager that covers everything.
Yeah.
It's not about football. It's about life. It's whereas with Dave Sexton at Chelsea, I had no management at all. He had no management skills really. Uh, he was an FA coach. He went on to coach Manchester United, QPR, or manage them,
Mm.
but coach them basically. And obviously he worked for the FA, coaching with the FA. But I'm sure it was just a shame that his management skills weren't in the same class as people like David Goodyear.
Absolutely. It takes a genius. And luckily, you did have that genius. Peter Storey, how many games did you play with, Peter, at Arsenal? It couldn't have been
None.
many. No, I was going to say it couldn't have been many.
No, it was when I first got to Arsenal. I don't think I played for about 3 months anyway, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, because I had a bad abdominal strain,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't really have signed me. Another tragedy in my life. It wouldn't have happened in America. You got to have a medical. You know, we hear this. How many times have we heard in the past? A player's got to pass his medical before he signs. Well, I didn't have no medical. I think they might have tested me for COVID way back then. I think
Yeah.
in Arsenal, that's how bad they were. But I really should have refused to sign. Number one, refused to sign, and number two, seen a proper doctor.
It's unbelievable, really, when you look at Arsenal have signed the greatest midfield player of his generation. Many would say that we've ever had. That is an argument for another day. But going back to that physical and those physical scars that you still carry today, Al, how do you process the mental scars? How did you mentally pull through that? Because that wasn't just, you know, an accident, people get hit by a car. This car put you up a tree and you had so many injuries. I believe you were given the last rites as well while you was in hospital, wasn't you? You were that
So,
bad.
so I was told. I was told by my
Yeah.
family, and I don't think it was I'm not too sure if it was a priest and everything else, but they were given the nod by certain surgeon.
Mm,
I think it was probably David. A couple of times, not to hold out too much hope,
yeah.
and luckily for me, I weren't to know about it. They had to. My family, my loved ones, did all the suffering around that the
Mm,
59 days, because several times they were told that. Um, I come out the other end of it, and seeing all these faces with fear-struck faces, and I had to try and tell them that everything was okay. And when David Goodyear told my mother, I think he said that we're worried. We're doing all we can, but we're just worried that his heart won't hold out.
yeah.
And I said it's a shame that I wasn't awake at the time, because I'd have told him there's no chance of that happening.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm probably going to have a heart attack this afternoon. But there was no way. I mean, I was training right up until that day, um, right until that morning of the accident. So I was training. I don't mean like you see people going to the gymnasium and do this and the other. I was training like I was going into a fight with Muhammad Ali. I
Yeah.
was fighting. Apart from my upper body strength, my legs were strong, and that's really what got me through, Paul.
And you have always kept yourself fit. And when I did say 1998, of course, yes, it was 97, but it was a 59-day coma. So pretty much when that car hit you in 1997, you didn't wake up until 1998. That in itself, Al, is extraordinary. And I think it's testament to the person that you are, the character, the heart. And I think that heart will carry on forever, Al. Probably a long time after your liver, but that heart will carry on forever. That liver's took a little bit of stick over the years, hasn't it?
Well, we batter our bodies, don't we?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not too sure about this, especially since COVID and everything
Mm,
else, and people, the amount of people, unfortunately, that we've lost over the last 3, 4 years, has been tragic. I thank my lucky stars every morning since COVID, and I've had COVID, and I haven't had COVID, and I don't know if there was any COVID.
yeah.
I think the politicians messed up again. I think they cost a lot of lives. Uh, I think we're very lucky. We've got to count our blessings that we're here today.
Absolutely.
Because the people that are supposed to be, we pay taxes and everything else, and in this country, and the people and the elderly, especially the elderly, who've died of lack of treatment, and it's just horrendous, really. And it's been a lot of pain over the last 3 or 4 years. And I sat there at Martin's surprise party last night, and before he got there, and see his face when he walked in, and I thought it kind of makes up for all the heartache, and brought back a load of fantastic memories because he's good. He's good people. He really is.
Yeah.
He wrote Charlie Cook. Since he'd known me, I've introduced him to a lot of people. He wrote Charlie Cook's book. He wrote Dave Mackay's book, Peter Osgood, George himself. So he's got a lot of fantastic memories throughout our friendship. And we've discussed what you and I just discussed about, the Betty Shine thing as well. There must be some life afterwards and everything else. We discuss all this, but it's a reality talk really more than anything. It's not pie in the sky stuff. It's
Absolutely.
because I think when these people that say to me about life ain't worth living and everything else, and it's a horrible. Well, life is basically what you make it,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
It's we all go through bad spells. I think in my life, it's if my greatest regret is basically the injury I got that kept me from going where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And that is, people, these supporters, I'm fed up with saying it, and I told people again last night, I said, we might go to football, but you don't know what you're seeing, and you don't know the consequences of what goes on with footballers. How we hear today about these fine-tuned athletes, and yet all you see is them falling on the floor and holding this, that, and the other. And I think the game has become farcical. It really has. And then you think about the players you play with, you get whacked and people get hit. And I mean, when in our day, when people got hit, they were down, they were hit.
Yeah.
There was no messing about. There was no players running around the referee, waving an imaginary card in front of him and all that rubbish. It was. I've strangely enough, I've got the Diego Maradona story on as we talk, and I'm just watching him perform, and this fella was just something out there, and he got kicked from pillar to post every game in Italy. When he did what he did for Naples, and people. God knows what they would be like. I've had enough of this silly talk from supporters. God knows what he would think if they said to him about this subject, because he was like super. I don't know what superhuman. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah,
He was
definitely.
well,
Incredible
yeah.
freak of nature.
Yeah, he was. He really was. And I'm watching it now as we talk, and I'm just thinking, if I, as a supporter and as someone who's been on the field against people like Pele and George and Cruyff and everybody else, I look at this fella and I think, wow, he's just on a different level. And I've seen in this actual documentary the way he trained, uh, and they talk about looking after yourself. Well, this fellow was quite the opposite. He won the cup for Naples for the first time ever, I think,
Yeah.
and he did it on alcohol and cocaine, I think.
Mm.
It was unbelievable. And yet he still performed at the highest possible level and was still impossible to mark.
Balancing a wellness routine and busy travel plans? Try Alo Moves, the health and wellness app you need to stay consistent. Join alomoves.com with code ACAST for a 30-day free trial and 20% off an annual membership. From yoga and Pilates to strength workouts, Alo Moves has it all. From 5 to 60 minutes, Alo Moves has classes or flow that fit your schedule. Plus, Alo Moves offers meditations, sound baths, nutrition tips, and self-care tutorials. Find your perfect wellness routine anytime and anywhere with Alo Moves.
If there's one thing that my family and friends know me for, it's being an amazing gift giver. I owe it all to Celebrations Passport from 1-800-Flowers.com, my one-stop shopping site that has amazing gifts for every occasion. With Celebrations Passport, I get free shipping on thousands of amazing gifts. And the more gifts I give, the more perks and rewards I earn. To learn more and take your gift giving to the next level, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
I've just seen him beat 5 people in a row here, and they were not trying to, let him go by because he's Diego Maradona. It's all trying to take his legs from under him. And this was when Italy was the toughest league in the world.
Absolutely, and again, before Italy in Barcelona, he took such stick, it was incredible. Maradona from the age of being a young'un, and then going through the ranks of Argentinian football, through to Spain, through to Italy, playing for the national team. He's probably been kicked more than any other player. And the pitches that he played on, there was such jeopardy. The likes of your Messis and your Ronaldos and the great players today, they're all great as well. But, players can't go near them these days. You can't give the players the kick-ins that you guys used to have back in your days. So when they say it's a different game, yeah, it pretty much is. You can't get kicked from pillar to post.
Yeah. It's if you watch this and then you watch a game today or yesterday, I mean, it's these players, people like Maradona never got the kind of space that these players got today. You see these players in the back, defenders passing the ball, and they go over about 20 touches at the back before they go over the halfway line. You think, well, what's going on here? Maradona will be screaming at them, please get rid of the ball, give it to me. It's the game's changed for the worst, mate. It takes all that end. Someone mentioned the other day about the 1970 Cup final, Chelsea and Leeds, and that is when you have to be mentally tuned in. Otherwise, you get badly hurt.
But again, it was a mental and a physical tuning in for players back in those days. I did notice this week you've been out and about. You met up with Peter Kitchen, didn't you, at the commentators' dinner? Talk to me about that. Oh, that looked like a great event. He's a great lad as well, any Kitch?
Well, I never knew him. And it was funny. I was on a train coming back from a place called Westmoreland, which is around Gillingham, and I'd been staying with my friend Jeff Idle, him and his wife. We go back to the Chelsea youth team days, and he's a great. They're great people as well. And they put me on the train, and I was coming home this day, and I knew I had a long few days in front of me, and this fella stared at me on the way to the bathroom, and he stared even longer on the way back, and I walked back and to see if my bag was all right. And I walked back again, and he's still staring at me. And he went, Alan. I went, Yeah, I knew his face was familiar, but I didn't know who he was. And he said, "Do you mind if I join you?" I said, "No, come on, sit down." And we sat down. He said, "I'm going to doing Covent Garden." He said, us old journalists and old whoever, whatever they were, about 20 of them sit down for lunch. They invited me for lunch, but I just had an hour with him and off I went, but I couldn't get too involved because I knew I had 2 or 3 parties on this. And it was just good. And all flashback, he mentioned about he played in the semi-final against Arsenal when we knocked them out. And I said, "How unlucky were you that day? We scored 2 own goals
Yes.
in a short space of time. And nobody deserves that, really. And when you meet the opposition and you think, well, that could have been me. That could have been us. They could have had 2 shots and deflected past Big Pat. I said, "You're so unlucky, mate, but that's the way the cookie crumbles in football." I've been knocked out of European Cup, Winners' Cup, and we should have won by in a cakewalk, really, and got knocked out. It's just. I think sometimes these cup competitions, it really is in the lap of the gods. It doesn't matter how well you play or whatever. I think sometimes your name really is written on the cup. I think you can ask Sunderland supporters, when they beat Leeds, and Wimbledon supporters when they beat Liverpool at Wembley. These are miracle results, and uh, it's all part of history. It's all. I think your name. They when you see them putting the name on the cup as they were talking after the game, I think that was all done 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Your name's written on a cup. I've been in semi-finals, won semi-finals, got beat in semi-finals when we should have won, and got through when we shouldn't have won. And then they got the FA Cup in 1970. We beat Leeds after 2 matches in a final, and they were the better team in both matches,
Yeah.
football-wise. But our our character, I suppose, the character in our team got us through, and we were behind 3 times in them 2 matches, and we come back and fought back, and Leeds were behind once and couldn't come back, and I think that was testament to our players, world known for being half a dozen playboys.
Yeah.
But when the chips were down, we showed unbelievable character, and it was heartbreaking for me because I wanted to be on the pitch with them. But again, it's football. Football could be the beautiful game as I'm watching Maradona, and it can be the most painful game.
Absolutely. Leeds United really got done by the Kings of the Kings Road. That Chelsea team, to this day, one of the greatest teams that's ever walked on a pitch. And not just for what they'd done on a pitch, but for what they did off the pitch. And the stories are legendary. And you can access all those stories, guys, on that Patreon page, My Life, My Music, all w's.patreon.com/SRB Media. 1974 is a big year for you, Al. It's the 50th year anniversary of you going north when that boy, that young man, the day he caught the train, went up there to Stoke City. It didn't go well at the beginning. You didn't get on with your teammates like you did at Chelsea. But how's the celebrations going on? Have you got anything nailed down? And are you going to be doing a few celebrations? Because after all, it's the year of 1974, not just your debut on the 19th of January against Liverpool, where a chorus of Alan Hudson Walks on Water rang out of the booth and end. So how far down the line have you got? I know we've tried at Stoke City.
Yeah, that was. I was at the Stoke City game last week in my friend's box, and very good friend of mine come into the box, and I spoke to him, a fella called Ken Walsh, who used to run a club called Newcastle Town, which is Newcastle under Lyme.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going up to board. I'm with the chairman. And I forgot to say to him, just remind the chairman that he's refused me the Waddington Suite to have my big night, you know.
Yeah.
But I will let it be known. I've got a couple of good venues on. I'm looking for another couple of venues. I was working last night on one while I was at the party, because I think, especially when you're out and about with these people that, what can I say? You know, it's a very touchy subject, football supporters, because you want to tell them, you know, to slow down a bit. You know, they talk a good game. You know, but they don't really know. I think the ins and outs. I think the ins and outs of if you had 10 footballers sit around a table and talk about their life in football and their ups and their downs and everything else, and you know, I watched a game the other night when I played against Leeds, and I was telling my son the other day, and it was a game. Leeds comes to the bridge and won 2-1, and I played, and I didn't think it was me. I thought, what must have been going through your mind when you could play that bad? It was the worst I'd ever imagined playing. I think I was in so much trauma from the aftermath of my injury, the aftermath of missing the FA Cup, of missing a World Cup, trouble with a wife, going out for all the wrong reasons, going down the King's Road for all the wrong reasons. I say to young players, go out and enjoy yourself, live your teenage years, like, you know, really go and enjoy, because they're the only ones you're going to get. But I was going out for all the wrong reasons. I was, you know, doing things I'd never done before. I was just hurting inside, I suppose. I think a lot of it brought back. I'm reading the Matthew Perry book as well, and it's obviously a very talented lad. Had everything. He said I was getting £1 million a week. I was going out with Julia Roberts. Life was, you know, anyone would die for this life, he said, but I was in so much pain and agony, and I could relate to that.
Yeah.
I had to put the book down. I couldn't read further than that. And you know, the pain and the agony. But people think when they watch a football match that, you know, oh well, I could do that and I could do that, and wasn't he bad and wasn't he bad, and they don't understand. They don't really understand the intricacies of being fit mentally, you know. And you just touched on me going to Stoke City in '74, and people just don't know how much within 6 weeks of when they started singing Alan Hudson Walks on Water, in those 6 weeks, with under stronger management, how he changed me as a player, as a person. What he did, Paul, I think I might have said to you a long time ago, he took me back to my school days, and reminded me that, and my father was alive at the time, and the way my father brought me up was to play the game the best way I could, and you don't, and people don't realise that the satisfaction is just incredible when you perform at your highest level. I know we're all different players, you know, we all do it in our own different way. But for me, it was. I don't know if other players feel this way, but I was like, I'll come off the field and I could walk out the dressing room, and I felt like I was walking on the moon. You know, it was incredible. It's an incredible feeling to work hard. I diverse again. I mean, I watched the Ronnie O'Sullivan show again yesterday before I left for the party, and what he must feel when he gets off the table after these last couple of sets against the Chinese player. He was just unbelievable, and I thought to myself, what can you do? How can you celebrate that? What can you say to people? People were patting him on the back, shaking his hand, and everywhere he went, and they in his documentary, he looked miserable. He had so many demons, and he was fighting them off all the time. And that is what happens when you're a genius. It's not all strawberries and cream at the top, mate. It really isn't. And when you get given such a God-given talent as he is, like Maradona, like George, and they say, well, why did he do this? Why did that? And it's something you'll never know. Let's put it that way. If I could turn around to a football supporter and say, listen, mate, you pay your money, you say what you got to say, but you don't know nothing. You just see what you see. Well, that ain't the be all and end all. That is not what you see. Is just what you see. It's not. You have no idea when people are going out there and they're going for a bad patch, and you're booing them, and you're saying, I've been abused by so many supporters. It's unbelievable for having a bad time. Well, that's what happens, because we're not machines, we do have feelings, and some can handle it, some can't. But genius is, and performing at the top level is the greatest pleasure. I'm 72, and there's no other way to describe it. Really, it's just incredible. You are sitting literally on a different world after matches. You come away, and it's great when people come up and congratulate you and say this, that, and the other. But I do know, as they're saying it, I could deep down know that they've booed me at some stage.
And to listen to the rest of this podcast, head on over to www.patreon.com/SRB Media. Thank you.
If there's one thing that my family and friends know me for, it's being an amazing gift giver. I owe it all to Celebrations Passport from 1-800-Flowers.com, my one-stop shopping site that has amazing gifts for every occasion. With Celebrations Passport, I get free shipping on thousands of amazing gifts. And the more gifts I give, the more perks and rewards I earn. To learn more and take your gift giving to the next level, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.